Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany if we've never met before, and welcome to my fantasy romance readathon vlog. Now, I need to fill you in on the journey that I have been on thus far because it's been just that. I started this readathon out with a buddy read with Charles from Books on Stereo, and we picked City of Thorns by C.N. Crawford. And I want to quote him because I think he said it best. This reads like a paranormal fantasy as opposed to a paranormal fantasy romance, which is why I suggested that we hop into a different book. And he did his due diligence and actually finished it. And I'm so grateful because I did suspect that I would have to wait till like the end of the second book or the third in the trilogy to get the romance I was looking for. So I'm not considering this a DNF because I will be going back to it. And when I do, I will be primed and ready to just read all three of them in one go. I did, however, DNF Fighting Monsters by Sam Hall, and I will be surprised if Charles ever wants to do a buddy read with me again because he clocked it at the sample, okay? And if you're looking for just monster smut and you don't really care about plot, she delivers on this. And I truly mean, like, you can read this and you'll probably enjoy it because I was hooked by the fact that this is about a heroine whose mind and body gets played with in her dreams by monsters. That was the hook for me, okay? I'm just gonna start with the good things, okay? Let's start with the good things. This has a historical prologue that aims to set up the lore about a all-male coven led by one female witch. You're thrust right into the action where she's watching her beloveds, because this is of a reverse harem, be burned at the stake for witchcraft. And then we're pulled into another flashback that explains how they prepped for this moment through a ritual that bound them to her and the land that they practice on. So when you're catapulted into the future, it's pretty known that the heroine is the unbeknownst heir of this ancestor. And I did like that she was a graphic artist. She sells her work to like fantasy and monster romance authors, and how she's really just drawing the monsters in her dreams, which makes her very protective about changing her illustrations. The problem with this book is that the plot is this slow meandering that isn't leading anywhere. I felt like I was lost at sea, caught up in the current of believing that we were moving somewhere, and then as soon as we were, she falls asleep, which can happen anywhere and everywhere. And then now we're into this monster smut with characters that she had a bond with that I wasn't privy to. And I kept reading in hopes to get to know them as well, you know, and I was hopeful that maybe when she claims her rightful place as heir and she's on the family land, this will develop the romance. And that never happened. I was hopeful because there is mention of the fact that she's known these monsters all of her life. When she was a child, they appeared as ghosts. They told her stories and they played tea party games with her. And I wish that those 3 lines would have been expounded on more because I could at least clock like, whose tentacles are these? And like, oh, we're bouncing on a gargoyle now. Whose name are we calling? And what need does he feed in you? I got none of that. And I felt like she was having these amazing relationships with multiple characters off the page. And the only thing I got to see was the smut. Which was good, by the way. I believe in giving people their things, and I will give Sam Hall that. But that's all it was giving. I was at 40%. Long after the time that she claims her rightful place as heir, and nothing was happening. All I got was like an immortal groundskeeper who had been with every heir in her lineage before that, oh, surprise, wants to bang and be a part of the harem without the wooing. I just stopped caring and I needed to get out of it. I just want to live my best bookish life and read books that I'm obsessed with. So I'm DNFing it, and I need a palate cleanser. And for that, I'm gonna read Desired by the Fae Prince by Anna Callan. And if I like that, I want to read the first in her newest series. I think it's called Forbidden Fae, but I'll throw it up. And because I trust Crystal's taste, I'm absolutely reading Heart of the Fae by Emma Hamm. And I will discuss all of these books when I have an update. I'm just like eager to start. So I promise I'll be back when I have thoughts. Let's get into it. Okay, so Anna Callan is now a new author for me. Desired by the Fae Prince introduced me into the dark Fae world that she likes to write in, and how she depicts Fae as these hauntingly beautiful and menacing creatures. I love that they are not light Fae. They are haughty and frightening, cold, and indifferent when it comes to human life. And this one, Sandra, our heroine, has been sent to assassinate Runar for being responsible for the death of her family and for the deplorable inequalities that humans suffer within his realm. And I will say that this is short and insta-lovey on the part of the Fae Prince. And I'm going to tell you why I didn't care and why I still picked up the second book, which is really the one that I recommend. Because she writes these bold and selfless heroines that are unassuming in terms of their looks and heroes that fall for their character, okay? Even in this short-ass novella, Runar falls for her tenacity and her emotional sophistication. I know you clocked the quote because I guarantee I'm going to throw it up because it's that kind of seeing in a romance that's my catnip. And in Forbidden Fae, she adds this element where they're fighting the pole between them and the heroine's favor is political, okay? It has this very eerie and gothic tone when we're in the beginning within the human realm being introduced to our heroine who's trying desperately to keep to herself, but she's being harassed by this man-child with a frat pack who tries to assault her, and because of her bookish prowess and her knowledge of Fae fantasies, she gets out of it. I don't mean to speak in riddles, but I want you to read it and I don't want to spoil anything. But what she does to save her ass is a beacon to Salazar. Salazar is the prince of the Shadow Fae, and he kidnaps her and brings her to the other world. And it is there that she learns why the girls in her town are going missing, how she's the key to the survival of all Shadow Fae, and the key to Salazar's feared and revered heart. I loved their captor-captive, like Dommy brat relationship and the Hogwarts elements that are at this in this like gooey center that's at the core of him. All I know is that the second book in this series drops sometime this month, and I'm gonna have to tide myself over with her like Winter Court series until then. But I love the dynamics within her writing. I'm so happy that I found her. I also finished Nation of the Sword by the founder of FaRoFeb, H.R. Moore. Harriet reached out to me and sent me this, and I was so excited to get back into this world of reincarnation, demonic nations, and a love of many lifetimes. This book picks up right where the last one leaves off, so there are cliffhangers, and this is full of spoilers. What I can say is that they are action-packed, okay? And this follows a demon hero that searches for decades within this lifetime for the love of his life. And when she awakens to their love that they've had across the many that they've lived together, she is ushered into this world of magic and a tumultuous political climate of warring nations and a lover who aims to thwart their connection. And I just love how she captures the nuance of an identity, because if it isn't corporeal, then it can be seen in the challenges that all of the characters face and how they actively showcase where their allegiances lie. In this book, the heroine is still learning despite the many lives that she's led. And because of one of them, she's forced to balance espionage while trying to find a lost part of herself in order to get back to the soul that she loves. There are so many moving parts in this, and they all converge at the end of the third act. So I'm ready for the next book to see the aftermath, and I feel like I'm back on a roll. So in order to keep it going, I think it's just best to just finally start Heart of the Fae by Emma Hamm. I'm very excited. I don't know what's gonna happen after that, but I will be back once I have an update. You guys, I knew I was gonna love this. I was completely enamored by her writing style. All of the creatures were so well developed, and I have never seen them before. I love how she introduces the world through Aemon and his familial betrayal and exile. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so his curse is his greatest shame. But I just couldn't help but feel like his scars were just so gorgeous. They're made of priceless crystals. And I know this is supposed to like incorporate Irish mythology, but I just saw him as this towering Norse warrior, beautifully brooding in gemstones. And I wasn't expecting Sorka to be this like force of nature. She's a midwife in a brothel in the human realm, and she's very inquisitive and comforted by knowledge. And she stumbles upon a quest after making a deal with the Fae to save the life of her father from the plague that they can only cure. And that leads her to Aemon. He finds her washed up on the shores of his hidden island, and he's enamored by her beauty, and she's not at all impressed with his attitude, okay? It's her genuine nature that wins over the servants of his home. And I loved seeing the characters through her eyes because she's always believed in them, and it's now all happening. And this is really just a slow burn where he falls in love with this woman with a strong backbone and a gentle acceptance of who he is. And he completely unravels despite all of his anger and insecurities. Oh, and I just loved them. In the end, their love is solidified, but we don't get the normal elements or markers of an HEA because the saga continues. So I immediately picked up the second book, where I have to say within the first 10%, it completely undermines the mission of the first. I didn't like it as much because it's really centered around the politics that go into Aemon reclaiming his rightful place on the throne, and follows Sorka's journey of uncovering and assuming her newfound identity. So they don't really spend a lot of time together in this one, and I felt like the plot was very clunky, and the third act was incredibly hasty for the showdown moment that we've all been waiting for. And I just wanted like time with them. I wanted to swoon, and I wanted the magic of the first book. So it really wasn't my favorite, and I don't really want to read the third to get that. So I'm gonna pivot and get back into Lily Maine's Monsters World. Jen from the Book Refuge just read Soul Eater, and it was a 6-star read for her. And I make a point to read everything that she loves because our reading tastes are just so aligned. They always hit for me. And I read Soul Eater back in October. Okay, we know I'm a hoe for a theme. And I want to reread this really to be reintroduced to Wynn's best friend, Eden, because his book is the second one. And it's just absolutely hilarious as to like how different Wynn and Eden are. But Soul Eater is set in a dystopian apocalyptic world that has been ushered in by an influx of monsters. 2 decades have passed, which has resulted in this wasteland, which is really akin to the Wild West, where we have the military that's out there hunting, studying, and trying to take these monsters down. You have monsters of varying sentient levels, and you have raiders that are just trying to survive. And Danny, one of our heroes, is in the military because that's one of the few ways to garner survival and safety in this world. And he is sent out on a mass mission to take down the notorious monster they call the Soul Eater, because Wynn is like this mirage of black smoke who goes on killing sprees periodically. I mean, he's taking down towns in an instant. So of course the military wants to capture him, figure out why, and retrofit his abilities for their gain. And when Danny is out on this mission, he sees what Wynn can do. And Wynn notices him among this sea of soldiers, and they have this moment. And right after, Danny passes out, and when he comes to, he learns that he was the only one to survive. Wynn was captured, and he's the only one that Win will speak to, and it's their romance. So I am ready to glean and swoon. I already know what's gonna happen, and I'll be back with thoughts. I probably am gonna pick up Eden because that's why I'm rereading this, and I'm very excited to get back into this world. So I will see you soon. Bye. I love being back in this world. I really do. Which is odd to say because the circumstances are bleak for our characters, but the romance is just so freaking sweet. Danny and Win's journey through the wastelands is this unfolding of Win's true and misunderstood agenda. And Danny cannot help but develop this crush on Win, which is completely humiliating for him in the beginning because he feels like this badass ancient monster that's dragging him around in pity couldn't possibly ever see him as something. And he really can't get a beat on how Win feels about anything because Win is a monster of few words and Danny can't even see his face for a majority of this book. But I love how Win shows his affinity through these thoughtful acts of care, and he's really moved by the fact that Danny is the first human that hasn't treated him as a monster. And so for a monster who has no patience for humans, it's just so gratifying to see him take care of Danny, try to keep him alive, try to understand him, and to finally let his guard down. And I remember these being spicy, but I forgot how fun Win's anatomy is and how their time together is really this awakening for Danny. And this just turns into, I hate every other human but you. I will take out anyone who tries to take me from you. And it's coupled with you're the only one that sees me. And with that, I love how Danny matures in this because he gives me that moment that we all want when a hero makes a unilateral decision based on love. Okay, I reveled in the moment when Danny put that foot down. And I just love them. I hope that they make an appearance in the second book because Win has already been mentioned. I started Eden, and this is definitely a grumpy sunshine. Eden is this big purple monster with a great personality. He accepts Danny with open and jovial arms in book 1 and really helps Win get out of himself. And in this book, we start out by following Hunter in his everyday with his best friend Charlie. They're in the military and they come across the destruction done by Win in the first book and get attacked by a group of monsters that take Charlie and leave Hunter for dead in a ditch, which is where Eden finds and rescues him. And I kind of want to make a 5-star prediction here, because in this one, we have a clear mission to rescue Charlie, Eden's selflessness in wanting to help, and Hunter having to take his help. And I love how she mentions that Hunter and Charlie are in the military, but they've really been on missions out in the wastelands, which means they've been calling the shots. And now Hunter is forced to allow Eden to take the lead, and he's not at all used to that. And I just really love that he's this big soldier with a prosthetic, and that's already like a huge focal point. I'm really interested in seeing that being used as opposed to just being mentioned. And I like that, like, already from the beginning, Eden has made it clear that he's attracted to Hunter, so that's already underscoring everything. And I love how he just ruffles Hunter's feathers. He's really gonna have to learn how to fall back, okay, and accept the help. And so I'm loving this mashup. And yeah, I'm gonna make a 5-star prediction. And look, this is turning into the Monstrous series vlog. Like, my previous TBR has been forgotten. I'm going down the rabbit hole, and I will be back to swoon, no doubt. Have finished Eden and the Reek since we last spoke. I'm sorry I didn't update more. I was just on a roll. Let's talk about Eden. I knew this was going to be a 5-star read for me, and Wynn makes more than just a cameo in this book. He is a large part of the major plot, and I think it's so important because it not only reinforces his relationship with Danny, I mean, Wynn has no chill or patience for human ignorance. What he has with Danny is truly special. You can miss Wynn with all the drama and the BS. But he also helps Hunter see how kind and selfless Eden is, and reminds him to not take advantage of all that Eden has to offer, which is huge for Hunter in terms of him thawing out and within the relationship. And I love just how, as Hunter falls for Eden, a lot of his insecurities begin to emerge. He has a scar across his mouth. He's dealing with his stump, which is a huge part of this book. And Eden is always there to accept him graciously. he sees him as beautiful, and he's constantly taking care of him in a stern and dominant way, which is also pivotal for Hunter to feel almost dainty and made to take it within the steam, and in terms of orders when it comes to taking care of himself. And I just love how he warms to Eden's kind and jovial nature, and finally is able to carve out some sense of peace in this hell of a situation. I absolutely love this. I also liked seeing the monster fighting ring in this book. It's like this seedy underbelly gladiator type situation that makes me wonder what else is going on in this world. And I absolutely loved this one. You know, Eden is that great pause for all of the other characters. He's a reminder, well, maybe not for Charlie. He is a great pause for Charlie, but in a very comedic and sexy way. But anyway, I feel like he's a reminder to like glean the humor and what you can out of life in the midst of everything else. And because he's a character that does that for everybody else, it's also a reminder that he too needs to be fed. And I absolutely loved this one and jumped right into the Reek, which has been amped up the entire series because the Reek is the monster that all other monsters fear. The Reek is the most regal and fearsome monster that there is, but they live by a code. They don't harm anyone unless they're protecting those that they love. And in this one, it's really a slow burn because Ori, the Reek, has been tortured, poked, and prodded by the military, and when Gage, a raider, finds him, he's injured and traumatized, and it just takes him a beat to heal and get back to himself. Gage and his best friend bring him back to the raiders camp in order to help him recover, and Gage is immediately just struck by him. He's fascinated by his large talon-like feet and beautiful wings and striking features. And when he finally hears his voice that's like this deep timbre, it's like a gift, and they're so freaking cute. And in the backdrop of this, you're getting all of the politics within the Raiders camp, and you really learn Gage's role within that and how he's just worn down by the ceaseless danger. And he really just wants to like take a beat and get lost in Ori. And even the stakes on that escalate when a monster collector named Mary shows up with her menagerie of freaking horrors to capture Ori. And so this is really about Gage trying to keep and protect the most fearsome creature in the land, and we get to see why. That moment was freaking epic. Like, I was living. And right after, I was really disappointed by two elements in the third act. Gage made me put my Kindle down, and I had to take a moment. Like, I really did. Like, I felt like he needed a scolding, but it didn't last long. And then there's another element that I never like. No author will ever get me to enjoy this. It's painful, it's not selfless, and it needs to stop. Sign my petition. No, but she did turn it around for me, and I just love how, Ori's devotion is just so soothing to read. He's just like this sweet and gentle giant. And sorry, I could keep going on, but I loved them. And I'm really contemplating if I'm gonna read Gloam in this one, because that is the next book. You probably know, because, you know, you can see the timestamp, but I'm probably going to close this out right here because it is Super Bowl Sunday. It's technically the last day of the readathon, even though I'm going to be reading fantasy romance all month. So I'm going to close this out here. I want to thank you for joining me. Please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.